Hi, I'm your host, Marsha Florence with Just Ask Talk Show Live. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. Like you know, every other Thursday, here we come with some more good information and resources that are needed in the community. Now, a lot of you are always concerned, or I shouldn't say always concerned, but have some concerns about caregiving. So today we have a special guest with us, Dr. Paula Duren, Director of Universal Dementia Caregivers. Now, before I introduce Dr. Duren, I want to say to you that if you are a caregiver, there are resources out here that you know very little about and need to be connected to. So we plan to do a series of resource information in reference to caregiving. And today we're going to start with Dr. Paula Duren. So without further ado, good afternoon, Dr. Paula Duren.
Good afternoon, Marsha.
Thank you for joining
the invite.
Thank you for coming. Now, Dr. Duren, I had to address to the viewers that, you know, we plan to do a series of resourceful information pieces for caregivers, because a lot of people feel as though when you're a caregiver, there is no resources, there is no outlet, and you just do what you do because you love that person, you care for that person, and in the end, when that person leaves you for whatever reason, that's it. You know, and we go back to what we call normal. We don't have what we call normal lives once we are caregivers. So I'd like to start off with you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself as the director of Universal Dementia Caregivers, and what is Universal Dementia Caregivers?
Again, thank you for the opportunity to share information about Universal. We are a nonprofit, and we have been in existence about 6 years, and we provide care, training, education, coaching for caregivers, specifically for caregivers loving on folks living with dementia. But we also provide broader services for caregivers in general. I became a caregiver once my parents both developed dementia-related diseases. My mother had Alzheimer's and my father had vascular. And so it's one of those things you weren't planning on. I'm a psychologist by training, and I tell people I thought I was smart. Well, these dementias made me get to my knees and pray very often for guidance on how I would support and love them. So that's when I started a journal, Marsha. And you know, I'm gonna journal the things and release stress. And one day I read my journal and I'm like, oh my God, you're angry, you're upset, and listen to what's happening in your spirit, and you don't have anybody to talk to. And I decided that we're going to care for the caregiver, because the caregiver is often unnoticed, unappreciated, undervalued for everything they give. And I decided that's a group we'll service. And we provide all kinds of services for them. And your opening comment was absolutely correct. There are services available, but often caregivers don't think about services until they're in a crisis.
And that is so true. So, you know, I'm hoping today that this show in particular will shed light to many people who are caregivers to know that there are things that you can involve yourself in, especially when you feel like you're breaking down, especially when you feel like there is, like you said, no voices to be heard and reconcile. You know, and I feel for a lot of people who are going through that, because sometimes we have to quit our jobs. Sometimes we have to, you know, take a second job to help pay for things that really there is some resources out there that will help pay for it, but we don't know about it. Okay, we can't eat, we can't sleep because we're worried about this individual. And this individual is, you know, has been sick for a while, but we are the person who is the voice for that person. So in your studies, I know you said you took care of both of your parents. Was it at the same time, separate times, or, you know, because it sounded like you were doing it all by yourself?
Well, there was an overlap in time. And so as I think about the transitioning, my mother died 9 months before my father. So that we had them both at the same time. What I did though is I pulled a team together of people. I didn't have a lot of help from my family, and we do a training session called I Got Crazy Family, and so that was always fun to talk about. But we provided support. We put a team together, and I call teams because you can't do it alone. We think we can. And I also had a sister and a nephew and a brother-in-law that were very key in helping us to support both of our parents. And when you were talking, I was thinking about, Marcia, what I hear from caregivers. Some of them are angry. They're not eating properly. They're not taking their own medication. And there's research that shows that the second patient, but it's called the second silent patient, is the caregiver, because they're not dealing with their own stuff. But you can't provide healthy care if you're not healthy. So it is essential that they learn the resources, they learn the strategies, but make sure that close to the top of the list, if not number one, I must take care of myself in order for me to be able to take care of someone else.
And that is so true. That is so true. I want to ask you some questions. You know, what is Alzheimer's and why is it so important? Because I know in caregiving we could talk about various conditions, but this one in particular may be the beginning of someone's learning about how to care for someone. Not everybody's caregivers for someone who has Alzheimer's, but they are caregivers for disabled persons and aging persons. But when a person has Alzheimer's, there's an early on sign and stages. So how is that addressed?
Well, Alzheimer's is well, first of all, there are about 6 million people living right now with some dementia-related disease, and Alzheimer's in particular is the most common type of dementia disease, and it's more than just memory loss, because people think about, oh, I've got memory issues. And they say, well, doc, I forget, I have my glasses on and I'm looking for my glasses. Does that mean I have dementia? No, it means you're moving too fast. Slow down and anchor yourself before you jump around and have 1,000 things going at the same time. And I'm sure Marshall, you've probably done it. Not your glasses. You ran upstairs looking for something. And by the time you got upstairs, you were like, oh my God, why am I here? And we started claiming Alzheimer's. I'm like, don't claim it. Please don't claim it. But Alzheimer's also normally affects older adults. There is a group of people who about their 40s and 50s, early onset dementia, but the largest majority are older adults. And as I said, it's not occasional thinking. It's problems with conversation. It's problems with memory. It's problems with recall. And it's a progressive disease. It starts at one level and it progresses and gets worse because right now there is no cure. But you and I have been taught if they seek long enough, they're going to find a cure. So there's a cure coming. I know it's coming. I keep saying I hope it's in my lifetime, because with both of my parents having had dementia, I would be a likely candidate to develop dementia myself.
So let me ask you this: what are some of the early signs? I mean, you know, there's sometimes there is signs, like you said. People say, "Well, I forgot my glasses and they were on top of my head." Oh, I forgot my keys and they were in my pocket.
That's
That
right.
might not be a sign, like you said. That's just forgetfulness or medication changes or something like that. But what are some of the early signs in particular that would give people insight that dementia is coming into it?
The one that caregivers often report first, because when you think about it, they're with the loved one on a regular basis and they see the behavior changes over time. Repetitive questioning. So they ask the question, what time is it? And you tell them it's 5 o'clock. 5 minutes later, they ask you the question, what time is it? So their repetitive questioning is something that you'll see with loved ones who might be developing dementia. I'm going to give you these early signs, but I'm also going to give you a caution, because some of these behaviors are indicators of other things. So you need to get an assessment, not assume that because I checked off this list and my loved one is demonstrating these behaviors, that means they have Alzheimer's. There's things that mimic dementia. So recent loss of events, trouble with familiar tasks. No, you know that they know how to get up and put their pants on and then put your shoes on. They may start doing things like putting their shoes on first and then trying to put their pants on.
Correct.
So trouble with familiar tasks. Might be some levels of social withdrawal, meaning they were normally a really outgoing person, they were engaging, but for some reason they started pulling back from folks and you're not sure why. And I say just start paying attention to it. Just see what happens, because those loved ones with dementia can get overstimulated
Mm-hmm.
And if they get overstimulated, they need to withdraw to develop some composure. There might be some changes in mood, which is amazing, but also misplacing things. And this is one of my stories, Marsha, I share, is that my father, we started getting late notices at the house, and I knew the bills were being paid. And so and then there was a shut off notice. And I said, okay, I need to find out what's happening. So one morning with my father, he was sitting in his chair. He had a morning tradition. What he would do is he would get up and get the mail. And so I'm a believer in honoring the person. If that's something you enjoy doing, you should always do the things you enjoy
Correct.
doing as long as you can do them.
Mm-hmm.
So this particular day, Dad got up, met the mail person, grabbed the mail. He looked through it like he was doing something with it, and he stuck all of it in the side of his chair. So he didn't even know he was doing that. And so
Yep.
I said, okay, that's an easy fix. What I did is had all of the bills sent to my house. That way I honored his tradition in the morning. He still got the mail. He still put it inside of the
Mm-hmm.
chair. We just
Mm-hmm.
had to clean it more often. So misplacing things, there may be some difficulty with communication. Somehow the word's not there and they can't find the word or they're using the wrong word.
So let
And
me
just
ask
some
you this,
general
Dr.
confusion.
Durham. But a lot of people, they're looking at it like they may not be around their loved ones long enough to see some of those symptoms that you're talking about. But like they can go to a person's home and see that the house is unkept. They can go and, like you said, visit a parent and see that they've dressed backwards. So they may not catch it because they're not living there. But then, how important is it to obtain a diagnosis?
Well, to getting a diagnosis is really important. But let me give one point. One of the things I encourage families to do is as your loved ones get older, visit them more regularly.
Mm-hmm.
Spend more time with them. Because what happens is that our seniors and our older adults are socially isolated. And we need to be engaged and we need to communicate with everybody. So please, if I can give any love to anybody, please visit them. If all you do is watch TV together or cook something together, just sit on the front
Share a
porch and
sandwich.
watch the grass.
Do
That's it. Watch the grass grow.
do
But you
something
say, how
simple. You know what? I remember coming up as a kid. Big Mama and Mama stayed in the same house. Okay,
mm-hmm,
so when you told the kids go in there and give Big Mama her lunch, her breakfast, the kids were taught early on to know that their grandparents were either next door or in the same house. Now we
mm-hmm.
got young generation grandmothers, and they may fall ill or anything, but you don't see that Big Mama and Mama in the same house no more, next door anymore.
That's true.
Kids going in Big Mama's room, sit down on the floor, watch TV with her, comb her hair. None of that. And so I don't know where we've fallen off at, but I partially blame it on, and I hate to say it, but I am, nursing home planning. People just automatically shoot their loved ones over to nursing homes and say, well, they'll take care of them. But before all these nursing homes and assisted living programs came about, the family was the unit, and the family held everybody together. And the term we were so accustomed to was senility. And somewhere we lost that term and turned it over to dementia. And then we also relate dementia to age criteria. Oh, they're in their 50s, they may have dementia. Oh, they're in their 60s, they may have dementia. So we kind of lost some steps there in retrospect to what history used to say. Now we don't say that anymore. We just go along with, dementia.
Well, senility was a term we used because we didn't know what else to call it. We
Mm-hmm.
basically thought they were crazy. That's what we were thinking, and that's what senility meant, basically crazy. And I know that we're not supposed to say that, but that's the way we were thinking. And in many families, what happened was we just put them in the back room, and when people came over, we just didn't let people see them because that's old crazy Aunt Sue or crazy Paula back in the back. We have grown now to get more information, and the assessments are such that we can start knowing better what kinds of illnesses our people are having, especially in the area of dementia related diseases. It's
Okay.
important for a couple of reasons to get an assessment early. One, but let me reiterate, dementia is not a mental illness. It's a brain disease. So Alzheimer's is a brain disease. So you should not be thinking about how do I just hide this, but bring this out. If you get an assessment and if your primary care doctor says, oh, it's just some of that dementia, insist on getting an assessment from a neurologist because
Mm-hmm.
many of our loving primary care doctors are wonderful, but get an assessment. And the research shows us that people of color get less referrals to professionals than others. And the disease itself, the Alzheimer's disease, is 2 to 3 times more prevalent in communities of color. So, and if we don't get in and have assessments done early, there are medications that can be used to slow the progression of the disease. Nothing cures it, but at least it can slow the progression. But if we get in at the last minute, many of those drugs are no longer valuable.
So we do
And the
have
disease,
some preventive methods for Alzheimer's. Some.
what we have is, it's not preventive
Okay.
because you will continue to develop the disease. What it does is it just slows progression. At this point, the disease, once you have the disease, it's going to progress to its severe stages. But we have medication early on that can make that timing longer. So no, there's no real cure at this point. There are some things that we could be doing that they believe help impact the likelihood of you developing dementia-related diseases, and they're links, but they're not causes. So people will hear me say, because the bottom line, you need to be healthy. We need to exercise. We need to take care of our health issues. In some communities, diabetes is very high, and vascular diseases and heart attacks and strokes are prevalent. There's a linkage or connection to those diseases and the development of dementia-related diseases. So your health needs to be at a level of taking care of yourself. And sometimes I feel like I'm preaching to myself when I say you need 30 minutes a day, if nothing more than walk up and down the steps and keep your heart beating, keep oxygen going to your brain and your body engaged. So in addition to those
I
kinds
wanted to tell you, you're not preaching to yourself today. The people in Facebook land, they hear you first and foremost. So you're not preaching to
that is
yourself
so important.
today. But listen, I didn't want to get off course, but I wanted to ask you about some of the information that we do have on hand here. So now that's not a lovely picture. Okay, so Care Partners Passage Through Dementia. Okay, so definitely tell
We
us
have
about.
we designed a program, a training program called a Caregiver's Passage Through Dementia. We also have established evidence-based. It's been were published in the Clinical Gerontologist, I believe, in March, and we use it both online. We also use parts of it in Lunch and Learns, but we also do a full day boot camp, and we cover everything in there. And in the boot camp, we teach you about what is dementia, what it means to be a caregiver, impacts on your life, legal issues of being a caregiver, the things and support you need, how to take care of yourself. Just a range of things are
Okay.
covered in our boot camps.
So let me go to the second slide here. It's not because there's your contact information. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you look down below, you see the phone number, and we'll post that phone number again. So, Universal Dementia Caregiver is a nonprofit organization dedicated to educating caregivers, families, and communities, supporting loved ones with Alzheimer's and other dementia-related diseases. Now, Dr. Durham, you spoke of all that, and so we would hope that those who are watching today will, reach out to you, because really, like I said, as caregivers, past and present, you're suffering when you try to figure out which way to turn and who to call and what to do. And I have this one thing to say to any and everybody: quit blocking opportunities for support to come to your home because your home is unkept. That has nothing to do with services. We want people to say, some people say, well, I have to clean up first. If you haven't cleaned up in 2 or 3 weeks, 2 or 3 days, 2 or 3 months, don't worry about it. Open the door, let resources come in. And seriously, people say, well, I got to wait till I clean up. Well, somebody's sick and somebody needs services, and we gotta wait till you decide to move the debris out the doorway. That's not fair to the sick person who is in need of services, and there's resources that can come to your home. You're unable to take the person to a facility to receive services, but services can be rendered to you, and you want to wait. That bothers me. I just like to clarify that. So I want to go to the third page we have here. Let's see. Did we? Okay. So tell us a little bit about your core services here.
Our core services, and we've added some since I created this document. We provide, first of all, Lunch and Learns, which are on a monthly basis. We are at some location providing a topic related to caregiving, and we provide lunch as a celebration because I think caregivers need to be recognized. So we bring them together, we give them this wonderful meal, we talk about some issue they're dealing with, and we just recognize them, because every now and then you need to go in a room with people like you who understand the stuff you're dealing with that you can share with. We also do online support groups, and our support groups are usually on, again, we have a schedule of them, and they're usually once a month. And it's a group of caregivers that get together once a month and talk about issues. We support each other, we analyze issues, and we just kind of be together. So we also do the boot camps, and I mentioned that to you before. All of this is on, if you go to our Facebook page, we highlight what's happening in a given month. We also offer an exercise program online. We offer family coaching,
Okay.
respite support, and resources and tools.
Okay. Okay. Now I really like this flyer here. So now I see this tools, care strategies. I'm missing a word. Care strategies, flowers. Okay, represented by flowers. So now this is a complete package of what's in there that a person can utilize at home.
Well, these are various tools that we have designed. The
Okay.
flowers tool is designed and available in our boot camps, and any of these products are for sale on our website. And flowers is something that we make loved ones analogous to flowers. And we teach you how each flower has a need for individualized attention, because we're person-centered, positive, psychology based. And so we teach you about some care strategies you need to use for your loved ones. The one tool that I absolutely adore is the flip book. Sometimes, depending on the stage of our loved one is in, they may have challenging behaviors. They
Mm-hmm.
may get to wandering. They may cause accusations. They may accuse you of things, as I said. They may start sundowning. That little booklet you hang up on your refrigerator, and if you go in and it says, "How do you handle wandering?" We've given you an understanding of what wandering is, why the behavior happens, and on the flip side, we've given you a number of ideas to try. But please know, it may work one day and not the next. The
Correct.
biggest issue in being an effective caregiver is self-management. If you learn how to manage yourself, you can do this work. You can learn it. You can, and you already love the people. You can do this work,
Oh
but you
yeah.
got to manage yourself.
Yeah.
Marcia, there was if I have time, there's a family that was, the dad was, they took him out to dinner, and he started pulling his clothes off at the table. Well, that's a behavior that happens sometimes when someone has Alzheimer's,
Mm-hmm.
and they whisked him up and took him home. And I said, why'd you wisp them up so far as fast? Because it is really important that they engage, that they connect with people. Well, he started pulling his clothes off. I said, go find his clothes that he had on yesterday. This was a Monday now. And she found them, and she said, I said, look at his shirt and see if there's any of those tags, or if there's a something causing them the little pain. They found that there were a couple of pins in the back of his shirt, and they were obviously sticking him. He did not know how to tell you something
Mm-hmm.
sticking me. He
Mm-hmm.
started pulling it off. I said, pay attention to what's under the behavior, because they're normally trying to communicate something to you. But we're so focused on, oh my God, people are going to see him pull his clothes off. You know what? They're not going to buy you dinner, and they ain't going to give you no money. Or just say to them, bottom
Right.
line, he has Alzheimer's.
Right.
And that's one of
Right.
the behaviors that may
Right.
happen.
that's a, that's the wonderful story right there, because it happens often, and people are so easy to say that's embarrassing. A lot of stuff may be embarrassing, but in real time it's a part of life, and you'll
That's
get
right.
over it. I always tell people, if my credit card doesn't work, I'm not embarrassed. I ask you, do you take checks? Well, my check don't bounce. But if if my check was to bounce, I'm not gonna fall out the window. I mean, when people go to a store
Right.
and the credit card don't work, and you're standing there and on the line behind you, and they say your card don't work, and they say, oh. I mean, why fall out? Those are minor hiccups that maybe something happened, technology wise. So the same thing when our loved ones, somebody's sick and they throw up or something. Don't you fall all out. Just go ahead and get it together, get them together, and move on. But when you show out too, then that's
Right.
when the audience takes note that says, "Wow, did you see that? Did you remember that?" Things will happen, and they can come and go, and that's what they should be. But if the caregiver falls apart, the whole scene is just monstrous. It's just
And
much. I want to show this one last.
That's why we got to care for the caregivers, Marsha. We have got to care for the caregiver.
And I feel that way. Let me show your logo and web, because I want people to see this beautiful butterfly here. Okay, so Universal Dementia Caregivers, and that is the web right there, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're interested in getting some more information, please go to Paula Duren's website and check it out. Okay, so don't just listen today and say, "Oh, that was a good show." It is, but it also has some meaning behind it for you as caregivers.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides at aarp.org/caregiving.
So now, we could talk all day about this, because it's, to me, it never ends. It never ends. And even with my own family, the pain that I've, went through emotionally, that, some family members didn't see. And everybody knows that you have family members that don't come forth. Okay. You got family members that don't involve themselves. But I say to that, if you're one of the family members that can't stand the sight of blood, that don't want to see mom sick and this and that, at least be the support group person to say, I can get the groceries, I can go pay the bills, I can keep the house clean, I can take them to the appointments. Do something as a sibling to share in the responsibilities of the parents, and don't look at it like, well, she got it, he got it, so they running things. Even in the end, when the parents or the loved ones, pass on, now we got civil rivalry. We got some headaches in there about, well, you didn't ever come over, or you didn't call. But we can do this together as brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, or whatever it takes, to make sure that this loved one is cared for, and even in the end, still remain respectful to each other's ways and lifestyle. That's my opinion. I went through it. I truly went through it. So I know it's what you're saying firsthand, without a doubt. So we hope that this message today, Dr. Duren, hits a lot of nerves, and people will reach out and call our number, and we're going to post your number back up. Is there anything that you want to say to the public before we wrap up? I mean, we had a wonderful conversation, and I'm going to ask you to come back. Okay, I can't just do you just one time. So, no, this is not just a one-time date. How about that? Okay, so is there anything that you want to say to our public in particular?
Let me say, first of all, thank you to every caregiver that's out there. If no one told you thank you today, and that you are valued and you mean a lot, I want you to know, I know, as well as Marsha knows, how important you are. You are the backbone for the healthcare system. They rely on you because they want people to come to the homes. Yes.
Our line time is going to end, and I don't want to lose you. I want to thank you. Will you come back and join us again?
I sure will.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Marsha Florence with Just Ask. And what do I always say? If you know a person with a disability, or if you just have a general question, don't be afraid to ask. Just ask. I'm your host. See you next time.